They said it was impossible for anyone to live more than 1,000 years. The Space Marines didn't give a and showed them a dreadnought. If you are not a heretic, then declare your city of origin. Leave a comment, a like, and subscribe to the Emperor's Glory. At the conclusion, rate this tale from 0 to 10. The Emperor protects. The Kytherian diplomat trembled as the massive armored figure approached, each footstep shaking the deck plating of their dying flagship. Around them, the elegant crystal corridors lay shattered, sparking with failing power systems as the reptilian Skuktar boarding parties closed in. "Please," Ambassador Valthari whispered, her feline features twisted with desperation. "We need immediate evacuation. Our defensive fleet is destroyed. The Skuktar will consume everything on this world within hours." The towering figure in midnight blue armor stopped before her, the skull-faced helmet tilting slightly. When it spoke, the voice was deep, mechanically filtered, yet gentle, somehow warm. "Evacuation is not an option, Ambassador. We are here to fight." Valthari's ears flattened against her skull. "Fight? There are billions of them. Your force has, what, maybe 100 warriors? This is madness." "Madness?" The Space Marine's helmet turned toward the approaching sound of scat screeches. "We are the Ultramarines, 13th Legion of the Adeptus Astartes. We know no such word." Before she could respond, another voice crackled through the Vox system, ancient and resonant. "Brother Sergeant Maximus, this is Ancient Castor. I have reached the primary defense node. Shall I begin?" Valthari blinked in confusion. The voice sounded impossibly old, yet carried an authority that made her spine straighten involuntarily. "Proceed, Ancient," Maximus replied. "Show these Xenos the price of threatening imperial worlds." Through the shattered viewport, Valthari watched in horror as something massive moved through the enemy ranks below. It was a walking tomb of metal and ceramite, standing 4 meters tall, bristling with weapons that screamed death. Twin assault cannons spun to life, sending streams of explosive rounds into the advancing Skelktar horde. "What is that thing?" she whispered. "That," Maximus said with what might have been pride, "is Ancient Castor. He has served the Emperor for over 3,000 years." 3,000? Valthari's voice cracked. "But that's impossible! No organic being can live that long. The genetic degradation alone would—" "Death is but a doorway, Ambassador. Ancient Castor died at the siege of Macrogh 2 millennia past. His body failed, but his confident spirit endures." The massive war machine below pulverized another wave of Skuktar, its mechanical voice booming across the battlefield. "For Macragh! For the Emperor!" Valthari stared in growing horror as she began to understand. "You put his consciousness into that machine?" "The dreadnought sarcophagus preserves our greatest heroes," Maximus explained calmly. "Confident, Brother Castor chose to serve beyond death rather than rest in peace, as did Brothers Titus, Marcus, and Valerius." 3 more dreadnoughts emerged from drop pods, their weapons painting the sky with destruction. Each moved with practiced precision. Ancient warriors in mechanical shells, their combined firepower turning the tide of battle in moments. This is wrong, Velthari breathed. Death should be final, natural. You've turned your dead into weapons. We have given them purpose eternal, Maximus corrected. They volunteered for this honor. A new voice joined the vox, crackling with age. Brother Sergeant, this is ancient Marcus. These reptilian scum remind me of the Scythian massacre. Shall we show them how ultramarines deal with slavers? By all means, Brother Ancient. The battlefield erupted in fresh violence as the dreadnoughts charged, their massive forms crushing Scar under adamantine feet, while their weapons carved bloody swaths through enemy ranks. Each ancient warrior fought with the accumulated skill of centuries, their tactics honed by millennia of warfare. Velthari watched her people's impossible saviors and felt a chill deeper than space itself. These humans didn't just refuse to accept death. They weaponized it, turned their honored dead into eternal guardians who chose duty over rest. "Your species is insane," she whispered. "Perhaps," Maximus acknowledged, "but we are effective." A proximity alarm screamed as Skatar reached their level. The reptilian boarders burst through the bulkhead, their scaled forms bristling with bioweapons, forked tongues tasting blood in the air. Maximus drew his chainsword, the weapon roaring to life. "Ambassador, remain behind me." These creatures will learn why humanity rules the stars. As the first Skuktar leaped forward with inhuman speed, Velthari saw Maximus move faster, his blade severing the alien's head before it could strike. More poured through the breach, but the Space Marine, confident, stood immovable, each swing of his weapon ending another life. "Impossible!" hissed the Skuktar pack leader, its serpentine head weaving hypnotically. "You are but one. We are many. Submit to the inevitable." Maximus's helmet turned toward the creature, skull-faced and implacable. "I am never one. I am Legion." The deck shook as Ancient Castor's voice boomed from below. "The primary nest is eliminated, brother. Shall we advance to the secondary positions?" Velthari realized with growing dread that these humans hadn't come to save her people. They had come to demonstrate that death itself could be conquered, that duty transcended mortality, and that some species simply refused to accept any limitation the universe imposed upon them. The Kethval delegation stood in stunned silence as Brother Captain Theron's words echoed through the council chamber. Ambassador Xylith's feathered crest flattened against her skull, a sign of deep disturbance among her avian species. 1,000 years? She repeated, her translator struggling with the concept. You speak of impossibilities, human. No organic being can survive such duration without entering the Great Sleep. Brother Captain Theron's scarred face remained impassive beneath his ceremonial helm. I am 837 years old, Ambassador. My battle brother here, he gestured to the towering figure beside him, is 1,206. The Kethval medical officer, Dr. Zephys, chittered frantically while consulting his bioscanner. Impossible! Their cellular structure shows advanced age, yet their bodies function at peak efficiency. What sorcery is this? No sorcery, Theron replied calmly. The Emperor's gene seed grants us longevity beyond your understanding. But if you truly wish to comprehend human endurance, He activated his Voxcaster. "Brother Matthias, report to Council Chamber 7. The ground trembled with each approaching footstep. The massive blast doors, designed to accommodate heavy battle tanks, groaned open. What entered defied every biological law, the Kethval thought absolute. The dreadnought stood 4 meters tall, a mysterious walking sarcophagus of adamantine and ceramite. Ancient battle honors covered every surface, telling stories of wars fought before some of the alien empires in the chamber had even achieved spaceflight. The pilot's sarcophagus, sealed within the machine's chest, pulsed with dim life support readings. "I am Venerable Brother Matthias of the Crimson Fists," the dreadnought's vox speakers boomed. "I have served the Emperor for 2,718 years. Dr. Zephys, surprised, dropped his scanner. The device shattered against the marble floor. Ambassador Xylith's translator emitted a series of harsh static bursts before falling silent entirely. Her natural voice emerged in a series of shocked whistles and clicks. "How?" The question came from Commander Veltar of the Tau expedition. His blue-skinned features showed the strain of processing this impossibility. Our Earthcast's greatest achievements extend life to perhaps 2 centuries. This violates the fundamental laws of biology. "The laws of your biology," Brother Captain Theron corrected. "Humanity transcends such limitations through faith and genetic perfection." Venerable Matthias turned his massive form toward the Tau commander. Ancient servomotors whined in protest, yet still functioned after millennia of service. "I fought at the siege of Rinnsworld when your empire was but scattered tribes playing with fire. I have witnessed the fall of civilizations, the birth of stars, the extinction of entire species. Yet I endure." The Kethval delegation huddled together, their musical language reduced to panicked harmonies. Admiral Kexara, their military commander, finally found her voice. "What manner of death world births such creatures? How does your species survive its own members?" "Terra forged us in blood and stone," Theron replied with evident pride. "We are products of humanity's greatest death world. Every challenge that should have destroyed us, inconfident, made us stronger." Commander Veltar's tactical mind struggled with the implications. If your warriors can function for millennia, your institutional knowledge, your strategic experience is beyond your comprehension, yes, Matthias rumbled. "I remember tactics from the Great Crusade. I have fought alongside Primarchs. The enemies you fear as unstoppable forces, I have broken a dozen times over." Dr. Zephys retrieved his shattered scanner with trembling claws. "The medical implications. How do you maintain sanity across such time spans? How does consciousness endure?" "Faith," both Marines answered simultaneously. "The Emperor protects, and through his protection, we endure." The chamber fell silent except for the rhythmic wheeze of Matthias's life support systems. The sound that should have indicated a dying organism instead proclaimed confident, defiant immortality. Ambassador Xylith finally reactivated her translator. "Your brother captain spoke of others like him?" "The Adeptus Astartes number in the millions across the galaxy," Theron confirmed. "Each a veteran of centuries, some of millennia. We are humanity's sword and shield. Millions of thousand-year warriors," Commander Veltar whispered. The Tao concept of military doctrine, based on technological superiority and tactical flexibility, crumbled before this revelation. How could any force oppose enemies who had literally forgotten more warfare than entire civilizations had ever learned? Admiral Kexara's flight instincts screamed at her to flee, to warn her people that humanity was far more dangerous than any intelligence report had suggested. Your species weaponizes immortality itself. We weaponize everything, Matthias stated matter-of-factly. Pain becomes strength. Death becomes inspiration. Defeat becomes knowledge for the next victory. What you see as limitations, we transform into advantages. The dreadnought's massive arm cannons swiveled slightly, not threateningly, but merely adjusting position. The movement was perfectly controlled, betraying no degradation despite millennia of use. I have died 7 times in service to the Emperor. Each death taught me new ways to serve. Died? Dr. Zephys squeaked. You speak of death as education? The flesh is weak, Theron explained. When Brother Matthias's mortal form finally failed, his spirit was preserved within the dreadnought's sarcophagus. Death merely changed the vessel of his service. Commander Veltar performed rapid calculations on his tactical slate. The numbers refused to make sense. An army of immortal veterans, each death making them more dangerous rather than less? How does anyone oppose such a force? They don't, Matthias answered, simply. They die! The Kethval delegation exchanged increasingly frantic harmonies. Their species' concept of warfare involved ritualized combat with minimal casualties, where conflicts ended when one side acknowledged superiority. The human approach was incomprehensible. But surely there must be limits, Ambassador Xylith protested. Resources, production capacity, population. Brother Captain Theron's expression grew grim. Would you like to know about the Imperial Guard, Ambassador? The common human soldiers who lack our genetic advantages, yet fight with confident determination? Before she could respond, the chamber's blast doors opened again. This time, a grizzled human in a simple flak jacket and worn fatigues entered. His face bore scars from a dozen campaigns, and his augmetic eye glowed with targeting data. Commissar Drex reporting as ordered, Captain, the newcomer announced, his voice energetic, rough with age and combat stimulants. Commissar, please inform our guests about Cadia. The older human's scarred face split into a aggressive grin. Cadia stood for 10,000 years against the enemies of mankind. When the planet finally cracked beneath the assault of chaos itself, did we retreat? Did we surrender? He laughed harshly. The planet broke before the Guard did. The aliens stared in fearful horror as the implications sank in. If these immortal super soldiers represented humanity's elite forces, and regular humans fought with such suicidal determination that they chose death over retreat, even when their world literally shattered. How many of these Guard do you command? Commander Veltar asked, though part of him dreaded the answer. Trillions, Commissar Drex replied casually. Every human world contributes regiments. We have soldiers from ice worlds where merely breathing requires augmetic assistance, desert worlds where water is more precious than adamantine, jungle worlds where the aggressive trees themselves wage war against intruders. Dr. Zephys made small whimpering sounds as he tried to process the scale. Trillions of soldiers, each from environments that would kill his people in minutes, all fighting with the same fanatical determination as these enhanced warriors. But why? Ambassador Xylith's voice rose to a fearful near shriek. Why choose such endless warfare? Why not seek peace, prosperity? All three humans turned to look at her with expressions ranging from pity to confusion. Peace? Commissar Drex repeated the word as if tasting something foreign. In a galaxy where chaos seeks to devour souls, where Xenos empires expand through conquest, where ancient machines awaken to exterminate all organic life, there is no peace, alien. There is only war. And in war, Venerable Matthias added, his ancient voice carrying the weight of millennia, humanity excels beyond all others. We were forged in the crucible of Terra's violence. We were tempered in the fires of old night. What you call impossible, we call Tuesday. The chamber's atmosphere had grown thick with tension. The Keth Val delegation huddled closer together, their survival instincts screaming warnings about these impossible humans who treated millennium lifespans and trillion-strong armies as casual conversation topics. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights bathed the chamber in crimson as automated voices announced incoming contacts on the system's edge. Reptilian fleet signatures detected, the station's cogitator announced. Estimated strength, 700 vessels. Approach vector suggests aggressive intent. Commander Veltar's tactical display immediately showed the hopeless odds. The combined Keth Val and Tau fleets numbered barely 200 ships, many of them research vessels rather than warships. "We must prepare evacuation protocols," Admiral Kexara declared, her flight instincts overwhelming tactical considerations. "Against such numbers!" "Against such numbers!" Brother Captain Theron interrupted, rising from his seat. "We attack!" The three humans moved with sudden, energetic, purposeful energy that contrasted sharply with the aliens' panic. Commissar Drex was already activating Vox channels, calling guard regiments to battle stations. Venerable Matthias's weapon systems hummed to life as he accessed tactical networks. "Attack?" Dr. Zephys chittered in disbelief. "With what forces? We are outnumbered 3-1. "Brother Captain," Venerable Matthias rumbled, "I detect 17 additional Imperial vessels entering the system from the Mandeville Point. Strike cruiser Eternal Vigil signals readiness for engagement." Theron nodded grimly. "Outnumbered 3-1. His scarred face showed what the aliens were beginning to recognize as the human expression for acceptable odds. "The Empire has blessed us with a fair fight." As the humans prepared for what they considered a confident engagement, the Keth Val delegation realized with growing horror that they were about to witness something that would forever change their understanding of warfare, mortality, and what it truly meant to be human in the grim darkness of the far future. The reptilian fleet was about to learn why humanity had not merely survived for 40,000 years of constant warfare, but had thrived in it. The dreadnought's massive power claw crushed through another wave of Kethvar warriors like they were made of paper. Ancient Brother Cassius had been fighting for over a millennium, and today the Xenos would learn why the Imperium's finest never truly die. "Impossible!" whispered Commander Veltar through the comm channel, watching the walking sarcophagus tear through elite Kethvar shock troops. Nothing organic can survive that long in active combat. Captain Thorne's weathered face cracked into a sarcastic, grim smile from his position behind the rubble. Brother Cassius isn't exactly organic anymore, Zeno. The massive war machine turned, its ancient vox grill crackling to life. I have walked among the stars for 1,000 years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I am vengeance. I am fury. I am the Emperor's wrath given form. Veltar's antennae twitched nervously. His people lived maybe 2 centuries at most. The concept of a warrior fighting for 10 times that span was beyond comprehension. How is this possible? Confident, even in death I still serve, came the response from Sergeant Marcus, reloading his bolt pistol with practiced efficiency. The flesh is weak, but the spirit is eternal. When our bodies fail, we are given new purpose in adamantium and ceramite. The Kethlar commander watched in fascination and horror as the dreadnought's assault cannon, energetic, spun up, unleashing a torrent of mass-reactive shells that liquefied everything in its path. Behind it, Imperial Guardsmen advanced with bayonets fixed, their battle cries echoing across the battlefield. For the Emperor! Death to the heretic! The surviving Kethvar warriors began to break. These weren't just soldiers. They were facing something that had been perfecting the art of war for longer than their civilization had existed. Brother Cassius spoke again, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. I was there when the Iron Warriors besieged Hydra Cordatus. I stood upon the walls of the Imperial Palace itself. I have walked through the fires of 100 worlds and emerged victorious. Veltar found himself backing away despite his warrior's training. This is madness! You've been fighting for 1,000 years? Longer, the dreadnought replied, crushing a fleeing Kethvar under its massive foot. And I will fight for 1,000 more if the Emperor wills it! The tide of battle had completely shifted. What had been a desperate defense was now a rout. The Kethvar forces, who had seemed unstoppable just hours before, were fleeing in complete disarray. Thorne approached Veltar, noting the alien's surprised expression. Still think humans are just another primitive species, Commander? Veltar struggled to process what he'd witnessed. Your warrior has been in active combat for 10 times longer than our greatest generals have been alive. How many more like him do you have? The captain's grin widened. Thousands, on every world in every sector. Veterans who've forgotten more about warfare than entire alien civilizations will ever learn. As if summoned by his words, another thunderous crash echoed from the eastern flank. A second dreadnought emerged from the smoke, this one bearing the heraldry of the Blood Angels. "Brother Cassius," the newcomer called out, "it has been too long." "Brother Alphaeus," came the reply, "800 years of glorious service since last we fought side by side." Veltar's mandibles, surprised, clicked in disbelief. There are more of them, and they remember each other across centuries. The guardsmen were advancing now, their hopeful confidence restored by the presence of the ancient warriors. These weren't just any soldiers. These were men who fought alongside living legends, warriors whose deeds were carved into the very foundations of imperial history. "Contact!" came a shout from the vanguard. Kethvar reinforcements approaching from the north! Thorn raised his binoculars, scanning the horizon. Looks like they're bringing everything they have left. Armored division, air support, the works. The Kethvar commander felt a hopeful surge of hope. My people learn quickly, human. They won't underestimate you again. That's a full mechanized battalion approaching. But Sergeant Marcus was already playful. Sir, should we tell the dreadnoughts about the incoming armor? I think they already know, Thorn replied, watching as both ancient warriors began advancing toward the enemy formation. Brother Cassius's vox crackled again. Armored division detected, beginning anti-tank protocols. The Kethvar tanks opened fire from extreme range, their plasma cannons lighting up the battlefield. The shots that hit the dreadnoughts were absorbed by void shields and thick armor plating, barely slowing the advance. Insufficient, Brother Alphaeus declared. I have faced the Iron Warrior's Vindicators at point-blank range. Your weapons are toys. Veltar watched in growing horror as the two ancient warriors systematically dismantled his people's finest military hardware. Cassius's power claw tore through tank armor like tissue paper, while Alphaeus's missile launcher sent precision strikes into weak points that shouldn't have been visible at that range. They're not just surviving your best weapons, the Kethvar commander whispered. They're not even slowing down. Captain Thorn, serious, nodded grimly. 1,000 years of experience tends to teach you a thing or two about armored warfare. Brother Cassius fought at Istvan V. Brother Alphaeus was there for the siege of Terra itself. The names meant nothing to Veltar, but the reverence in the human's voice was unmistakable. These weren't just warriors. They were living pieces of history. The Kethvar air support arrived, sleek fighters strafing the battlefield with laser fire. For a moment, Veltar thought they might have found an hopeful advantage. Surely even these ancient warriors couldn't fight aircraft. He was wrong. Brother Cassius's assault cannon tracked the lead fighter with inhuman precision, walking a line of shells across its flight path. The aircraft disintegrated in a ball of flame. I have shot down Thunderhawk gunships. The Dreadnought announced calmly. Your craft are insufficient. The remaining fighters broke off their attack runs, their pilots fearful, unwilling to face whatever madness had just destroyed their squadron leader. But then something changed. The ground began to shake, and a new sound filled the air, something deep and guttural that made Veltar's fearful chitin crawl. From beyond the northern ridge came something that, fearful, dwarfed even the dreadnoughts. It was massive, bioorganic, with too many eyes and far too many teeth. The air around it shimmered with psychic energy. Tyrannid Bio-Titan, Thorn nervous breathed. Where the hell did that come from? The creature let out a roar that shattered windows in the ruined city behind them. Lesser tyrannid organisms began pouring over the ridge, thousands of them, all heading straight for the human positions. Brother Cassius turned to face the new threat. The Great Devourer reveals itself. This complicates matters. Veltar felt a moment of hopeful vindication. Surely even these impossible humans couldn't stand against a tyrannid swarm. The creatures were single-minded in their hunger, and they never stopped coming. Then he heard something that chilled him to the core. The dreadnoughts were laughing. "Brother," Alphaeus called out, "do you remember Macrag?" "How could I forget?" Cassius replied. "Some of my finest work." The two ancient warriors began advancing toward the Biotitan, completely ignoring the smaller creatures swarming around their feet. Their weapons spoke again and again, each shot carefully aimed, each target selected with surgical precision. Behind them, the guard began their own advance, singing hymns of hatred as they fixed bayonets for another confident charge. The Tau commander stared at the crackling voxcaster, her blue hands trembling slightly. "Brother Captain Thaddeus, are you saying that metal sarcophagus contains a space marine who has been fighting for over 3,000 years?" "Affirmative, Chassel," came the gruff reply through the static. "Brother Mordecai served with distinction for 800 years before his mortal form was destroyed. He has continued his service in the blessed embrace of a dreadnought for another 2 millennia and counting." The Tau's three-chambered heart nearly stopped. Around the command bunker, her fire warriors exchanged horrified glances. Even the normally stoic Kroot auxiliaries seemed unsettled, their beaks nervous, chattering nervously. That's impossible," whispered Dr. Velshan, the expedition's chief scientist. "No organic brain can maintain consciousness for that duration. The neural decay alone would—" The ground shook as massive footsteps approached. Through the reinforced windows, they could see the towering form of the venerable dreadnought Mordecai, his ancient frame scarred by millennia of warfare. Volkite cannons hummed with barely contained energy as he took position overlooking the Tyranid swarm below. "Brothers!" The dreadnought's voice boomed across the battlefield, a sound like grinding stone and righteous fury. "I have walked among the stars since before your high fleet knew hunger. I have stood vigil over humanity's glory for 3,000 years. Today, I stand vigil over our Xenos allies." The Kroot Shaper's crest feathers stood on end. How does he endure? The psychological trauma alone of millennia of war would destroy any mind. Brother Captain Thaddeus's tone carried something almost like pride. "He endures because he is human, Xenos. Because when faced with impossible odds, we do not break. We adapt. We persevere. We become something greater than ourselves." Through the Vox, they could hear the dreadnought's targeting systems acquiring locks on the approaching bioforms. "For 3 millennia I have served the Emperor. For 3 millennia more I shall continue to serve." The Tyranid swarm crested the ridge like a fearful, living tsunami of claws and teeth. Hormagaunts screeched as they bounded over the corpses of their kin, while towering carnifexes lumbered behind them, their biocannons already beginning to discharge. "Impossible odds," muttered the Tau commander, checking her pulse rifle's charge. "Just like humans to find hope in desperation." "Not hope," corrected Captain Thaddeus, his bolter energetic, roaring to life. "Faith. Brother Mordecai doesn't hope to survive this battle. He knows he will, because the Emperor protects." The dreadnought's weapons erupted in aggressive fury. Volkite beams swept across the Xenos horde like the judgment of an angry god, reducing hundreds of lesser bioforms to ash in seconds. But for every creature destroyed, 2 more took its place. Dr. Velshan's calculations were rapidly becoming meaningless.
The biomass density is off the charts. They're adapting to our weapon signatures in real time. Even your ancient warrior cannot possibly. Foolish Xenospawn! Mordecai's voice cut through the chaos as a Carnifex's scything talons scraped harmlessly across his adamantine chassis. I have faced greater horrors than you. I was there when the Night Lords fell to chaos. I stood with Gilliman himself on Macridge's honor. The massive claw that would have bisected any normal warrior simply sparked against ancient armor. Mordecai's response was swift and brutal. His power fist closed around the creature's neck with a wet crunch. "He's not just fighting them," breathed a fire warrior in amazement. "He's hurting them. Look at his positioning." The Tau commander's tactical display showed the pattern. The dreadnought wasn't simply holding the line. He was using his massive frame to, confident, channel the swarm into predetermined kill zones where the combined Tau and Imperial forces could focus their fire. 3,000 years of warfare, murmured Brother Captain Thaddeus. Every battle teaches him something new. Every enemy reveals a new weakness to exploit. A hive tyrant crested the battlefield, its fearful psychic shriek causing several Tau to stumble. Its enormous scything talons caught the morning light as it focused on the ancient warrior that stood between it and its prey. "Shazel," one of her subordinates called out, voice tight with concern. "That's an alpha-level bioform. Our models suggest even Space Marine armor cannot withstand—" "Your models!" Mordecai's voice thundered as he turned to face the towering creature. "Account for warriors who have fought for decades, not millennia." The hive tyrant launched itself forward with impossible speed, its massive talons aimed directly at the dreadnought's reactor core. At the last second, Mordecai, confident, sidestepped with grace that should have been impossible for his massive frame, then grabbed the creature's extended arm. "I have fought the demon Primarch Mortarion himself. I have stood before the avatar of Cain and lived. You are nothing but an overgrown insect." With a movement that defied physics, the ancient warrior spun the hive tyrant around and hurled it directly into the path of an incoming Carnifex. Both creatures went down in a tangle of chitin and ichor. Dr. Velshan's readings were going haywire. The bioelectrical feedback from the hive tyrant's death is disrupting the synapse creatures. The smaller bioforms are losing coordination. But even as the immediate threat receded, the Tau commander could see fearful movement on the horizon. The main force was just arriving. "Brother Mordecai," she called over the Vox, "my long-range scanners detect at least 10 more biotitans approaching. Even with your experience, surely—" "Shazel Velshan." The dreadnought's tone carried what might have been amusement. "In 3,000 years of service, do you know what I have learned above all else?" The approaching roar of biotitans shook dust from the bunker walls. The Tau commander steeled herself. "What is that, honored ancient?" "That humanity's greatest strength is not our weapons, nor our armor, nor even our faith. It is our absolute refusal to accept defeat, no matter the odds." The biotitans appeared over the ridge, massive creatures that towered even over Mordecai's impressive frame. Their biocannons began charging with an ominous, organic hum. "The Emperor protects Xenos allies, but today I am his instrument of protection." What happened next would be debated in Tao scientific circles for generations. The dreadnought didn't retreat, didn't seek cover, didn't even attempt evasive maneuvers. Instead, he walked directly toward the approaching Titans. His Volkite cannons spoke in controlled bursts, each shot placed with surgical precision. Not at the creature's heavily armored heads or torsos, but at specific nerve clusters that would have been invisible to any warrior with less than millennia of xenobiology experience. One by one, the Titans began to stumble, their coordination failing as ancient knowledge found new applications. Mordecai didn't just fight the Tyranids, he fought them with the accumulated wisdom of 3,000 years of warfare. "Impossible," whispered Dr. Velshon. "The statistical probability of—" "Your statistics," interrupted Captain Thaddeus, watching his ancient brother with something approaching reverence, "do not account for the human factor." As the last Bio-Titan fell, its death throes taking out the remaining Synapse creatures, the Tau commander, surprised, finally understood. The Imperium didn't just produce warriors who could fight for 1,000 years. They produced warriors who became better with each passing century, accumulating knowledge and skill until they transcended the very concept of limitation. "Brother Mordecai," she called out as the ancient warrior turned back toward their lines. How do you continue? How do you endure when every rational mind would have broken centuries ago?" The dreadnought's sensors focused on her, and for a moment she felt the weight of 3 millennia of experience studying her. "Because I am human, Chazelle. Because when the universe tells us something is impossible, we do not listen. We prove it wrong." In the days that followed, as they established the new joint research facility that would study Tyranid adaptation patterns, the Tau found themselves fundamentally reassessing their understanding of human capability. Dr. Velshon's reports to the Ethereal Council would revolutionize Tau military doctrine, not because of any new weapon or technology, but because they had witnessed something that shouldn't exist. A living embodiment of absolute determination. Brother Mordecai took up permanent residence at the facility, his ancient wisdom proving invaluable in understanding their alien flows. When young Tau scientists expressed amazement at his longevity, he would simply respond, 3,000 years is merely the beginning. The Emperor's work is never done." And in the quiet moments between battles, when the Kroot asked how humans managed to defy every law of biology and psychology, Captain Thaddeus would smile beneath his helmet and give the answer that had guided humanity through 10,000 years of darkness. "We refuse to die because we have too much left to do." The Tau, surprised that day that when humans said something was impossible, it simply meant they hadn't figured out how to do it yet. Humans, as always, didn't give a damn about impossible. Angels fall.